I will call to order the Personnel Policy Curriculum meeting, which is duly noticed on January 2nd, 2026, through posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin 19.84. Notice is hereby given that school board members who are not members of this committee may attend this meeting so as to constitute a quorum of the Board of Education. Any such board member attendance will be for information gathering only and will not result in direct decision making by the Board of Education. Safety message, I had that pulled up and then I went back to the agenda. So now I'm gonna go back to that again. It's on my email. So let me get that going. Just a few safety tips to consider for the month of January. Here are a couple for your car. Try to keep a gas tank with keep your gas tank at least half full to prevent the fuel line from freezing. Of course, you don't want to run out of gas. That's a whole other topic, especially in bad weather. And then if you are someone who parks outside where your car has access to being snowed on or ice, whether you're at work or at home, before driving, really do a good job removing that snow and ice from your roof, your hood, and all windows to maintain visibility and prevent hazards from other drivers. True story, my daughter's car, it's at home right now. She didn't take it to college with her, and I've been driving it, and there was some snow on top. It's parked outside, and things were melting, and I stopped, and ice slid, and it got wedged underneath the windshield wipers, so I couldn't clear things. So not just clearing off because it might block your visibility, but it could get stuck somewhere, so I had to pull over and deal with that. So speaking from experience, clear that snow. For a space heater, if we're using any of those, just make sure that you have it 3 feet away from anything flammable, such as a curtain, bedding, or furniture. And then another thing, think about those outside vents. So after heavy snowfall, make sure that you go and inspect your dryer vents, your furnace vents, if there is a fireplace vent, so that you can prevent dangerous fumes from backing up into your home. So make sure to check in on those, and those are the safety tips I have for this particular month. I need a motion to adopt the January 5th, 2026 agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Moved second, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Moving forward with, consider moving to full board approval for staff handbook changes. Carrie Mickelson.
So this section deals primarily with anything that will get an employee in trouble. So I thought it was important to do a presentation on it and make sure that everybody knew. There aren't many changes to it, but I thought it was a good refresher, and so I did a presentation for it. And then, do I hit this thingy? Yes. So it starts off the section with our professional conduct and our ethics. We do this when everyone is hired, but then I don't think that we go back and look at it again ever. So here are key responsibilities: making sure that we protect the mental and the physical safety of our students, maintaining confidential, since we have a lot of confidential information at our disposal, and then avoid using your position or public property for private economic gain or partisan political religious purposes. So just some little reminders on our code of conduct and ethics. Yes.
Just because I'll forget about it by the end of the
I'll
presentation.
go back.
It does state that they all have to read and sign during the hiring process.
Yes.
Might this be
I'm
a good
gonna
reminder?
recommend
that
going
they
back
sign
yearly.
it
Yes.
at the beginning of the school year each
Yes.
year, so they're reminded to maintain confidentiality, to protect the mental and physical safety of students, and to avoid using public property for private economic gain. I think that would be a good thing to bring to the forefront of their minds as they start a new school year.
Yes, so that is going to be a recommendation that we discussed this morning, that we, at a minimum, do the ethics. If not, have everybody look at the handbook again, because that's another one that everybody should be familiar with. So, but yes, we will do that. It's just a one sheeter that's in there, so it'll be pretty easy to put it in with. We have the our safety messages that go out. We've got our safety training video, so it'll be easy to put the ethics in there as well. Yep. So we have been working for a pretty significant time on our attendance procedures. And we started this last year, we kind of rolled it out a little bit, and then we restarted again this year because we needed to refocus what we were doing. And the biggest change in our attendance procedures is now it's over the course of 2 years. So, and it may look like it's pretty aggressive, but everybody gets 10 sick days. If you're full-time, you get 12 sick days. So in order to get to this, you've exhausted all of your leave. So you've already been gone for most likely 10 days. Then you're going to sit down with us and have a conversation. This is not subject to family medical leave, our medical leave, any of our approved leaves. This is, I'm not feeling well, so I'm not coming in today, and then I'm not coming in a couple days later, and then you're getting to 10 days being off, and now you're 11 days being off. We're not here that often in the school year, so it's really important that we have everybody here as many days as we can. So we moved to this model, and this model will, so let's say I sit down with Carrie and I kind of go through, I've exhausted my days, I've missed a day, I'm an unpaid status. I'm going to come in and you're going to have a written warning. We sit down, we go through what the importance is of being here. Let's say I don't have anything until the following year of October. You don't start over in the process, you keep going then. So it'll be a 2-year, rolling 2-year, which is different than it was in the past. We went to that because mostly our managers and our supervisors went, that's hard for us. Like they're getting 10 days, they miss 10 days, and then we start over carry. We're never able to do anything, and we need to be better at it. So we went 2 years, and then it starts over. So you get a free pass that 3rd year, you get to start over again. But we don't do a verbal. We go right to a written warning because we have verbal discussions when they hit about 7 or 8. So when we see that they're getting close, we pull a report every 2 weeks. So when payroll runs, we run a report. We look to see when folks are getting close. We make sure they're not on any leave. And then from there, what we do is either someone from the benefits group or the HR team will call them and say, how are we doing? Where are things at? How are you feeling? Do you have anything going on? Should we be looking at leave? So we've already had several verbal discussions with them, so that's why we went and moved to the written warning. So the 3rd unpaid absence for that in a row in that 2-year would be subject to termination. I'll pause there to see if anybody has any questions.
I'm trying to do the math, so if somebody has accrued, how much sick time do they accrue?
So they have 8 sick days and 2 personal days. So they'd have to exhaust all of that in the school year.
In the year, so I'm teacher A, I've exhausted all 10, I've had my meeting with you.
Yes.
Because I've had my 11th, and then in that 2nd year, I'm having a hard time with the 2nd year, because then their sick leave still accrues.
Yep, so they'll use it all again.
They'll use it, so this example is they've used that all again, they've used their
Yes.
10 days within that 2nd year, and
Yes.
it's on that
Then they go to a final written warning.
23rd unpaid day that they go
Yes.
to the 2nd unpaid absence.
Yes.
Is what you're trying to describe.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make
It's
sure.
pretty significant.
Yeah,
and-
that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to get through. Thank you.
How often are we having this issue?
I do have people that visit me on a monthly basis.
Okay. And what constitutes a sick day? Like, is it my kid is sick? Like, I'm a single
It
mom, I
can-
have a kid
yep.
sick too, that qualifies
Yep.
for them using this day?
I wasn't feeling well. I had something going on. My child had something going on. I, had something that I didn't come in on a Friday or whatever the excuse is. So it's not taking into any consideration any certified medical leaves whatsoever.
So I have the flu, I go to the doctor and I miss 5 days. I get a note? Does that qualify or where I mean,
So-
you know what I mean? I'm
Yep.
thinking of COVID flu. My daughter just had the flu over Christmas. It was 5 days she was down.
So we look at each one of those. So if we've got somebody that would be 5 days, we would take that into consideration before we move to any of this. So let's say someone was out for 2 weeks because they were out sick. They would have medical paperwork. We would put them on a medical, like there are things that we would do on our end to protect the employee as well. So we do, as soon as we know something's coming up, yep, we are all communicating with that. And we meet every 2 weeks to go through our absences as well.
Thank you. I was worried about these same questions. This seems kind of harsh, only because I've been a teacher and I've been a new mom, and I look at my Facebook memories. Any of you ever look at those when they come up? I don't know if you do. I was reminded when my second child was born, I had 4 viruses in a 2-month span, and I was very ill. I remember I had another virus when my oldest was a toddler, and I was literally flat on my back, sick for 20 days in a row. Either myself ill or she was ill. And so I'm just thinking, those things happen to everyone in our community all around every year. And right now we know that there are significant respiratory viruses spreading. So I see this language, and I totally understand from HR and running a organization, you have to have restrictions and rules and guidelines, but I don't see the language in here so that our people aren't scared, because I would look at this and think, oh my gosh, I would be fired. I'm going to be sick. And after we have lived through COVID and knowing some of our employees were very ill during that time, I want to be careful that we're sending messages of support and concern also for our people.
So this is a summary. It is not the full thing, and it does say the segment about the leave. So in that case, you would have been covered because you would have been out on a medical leave. And none of this would have applied.
So if I'm guessing correct, these are like for repeat offenders.
Yes.
Like this is what she's covering.
It's
It's
less
not,
than-
it's not
yeah.
for, I'm honest as the day is long. This is,
It is
Because
less than
she's-
5% of the population.
yeah. My question to you is, since you have these monthly conversations, it piggybacked off of what Julie asked. Is this, do you see this more in certified or non-certified?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying all of that, because I was
No,
like,
and
oh
that's-
my gosh, I would have been fired.
And that's why I did a presentation mostly around the attendance, because we will roll it out to all the employees, we'll roll it out to the principals next, and then we'll roll it out to everyone. So everybody has time to, and we sit down, I have a very kind conversation with folks. What can we do to help you? Is there anything we can do? And then I walk them over to Jamie's office and see if there's anything that they can work through or they can help them. We don't want anyone to leave because of attendance. We can fix those, but sometimes we have chronic problems and we do need to fix them. But I would even say it's 5%. I would say it's probably less than 1% of our population.
Thank you.
Next we have is our technology, so maintaining professionalism in all of our communications, don't use it for anything that's naughty, and we don't have any expectation of privacy on any of our things that we have. So I thought it was a good refresher to make sure that everybody knew that. Again, all the changes that we have, we're just tying them all to our board policies. The only board policies we didn't have in this section was attendance and dress code. So everything else is tied to a specific board policy, and then making sure that language aligns. So it just kind of went through the other sections that we're doing, and this is a bigger one because it has the attendance, it has the dress code, it has communication, it has how to use social media. So all things that could get you in trouble, which is why I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about those. Social media boundaries, use your district email for any professional communication that you have to have. Don't friend any students. Personal use during work hours should be minimal. silence your cell phone, and if you've got a school issued, make sure you're using it for tasks. So just again, reminding people about our technology and our resources and what we have that could get us in some trouble.
I have a comment on this.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the do not friend parents.
So that was my fault.
Okay.
It is correct on the presentation
Okay.
and in the handbook, but when I did it, I told Mark, I said, I don't even know like why, but I typed it that way. It's not in our policy.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you.
No, we have lots of parents that are probably friends with folks. We don't want them to message each other during about school-related things. So keep professional things professional with our professional communication methods. Any other questions on anything? Then we've got our dangerous weapons, zero tolerance for having any weapons, our drug-free workplace. Just because marijuana remains prohibited either way. I get that question a lot. So I thought, well, we should make sure we just remind people that it's still subject to state laws and it's not legal here. Reporting requirements, child abuse, and imminent threats, we need to report immediately. And then our dress code, nothing really changed with the dress code. It's just making sure that we're maintaining that professional appearance, and so it's just a reminder, getting your licensing done, wear your ID badges in a visible spot, and if you want to look at your records, you can look at them anytime. Just give us 24 hours, and even if you don't have 24 hours, you can usually call me, and I'll be able to get that for you. And then we finalized the section with training and development, making sure that people know that they need to do their training, their mandatory training, and make sure that they get it done. Any questions on anything else?
Well, good, thank you so much for these updates.
Thank you.
Yes, moving forward, course selection process presentation, Chris Medwalt. We do. Thank you so much, Stacy. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you for catching that.
All right, good afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit about the course selection process, but I brought, you could call her a ringer, you could call her a legend, you could call whatever, but Denise Cruiser is going to talk a bit about some things. I asked Denise and Luke Hannawald to kind of work with me to create this presentation. Luke couldn't join us because he's teaching a bunch of middle schoolers the difference between a full Nelson and a half Nelson right now at wrestling. So Denise was kind enough to join us. So I'm going to kind of go through some introductions. Denise is going to handle the nuts and bolts of a job she's been doing for a long time, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. So what we're going to cover a little bit, I'm going to talk a little bit about academic and career planning. I know you've heard that in the past. We're just going to briefly talk about it and some pathways, and then really get into the scheduling process going from the classroom all the way into selection to staffing is the gist. So ACP is the academic and career planning, and the idea behind it really is helping students understand themselves and understand what are some things they would like to explore in high school and beyond. The very last bullet there is beyond a four-year plan. Some of you probably remember when you were in high school filling out a four-year plan. I'm doing this my freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, right, and planning that all out. And while that's important, the idea of academic or career planning does go beyond just selection of classes, but goes why you're selecting classes, figuring out some things that you'd like to do, what has to happen first before other things can happen. And really the three steps to that are here is helping kids explore who they are. That actually starts all the way in elementary school of some of the things that they're exposed to and that they're asked to do, continues through middle school. What do I want to do? Some of you have heard, while I think that's an important question, I think an equally important question is what do you not want to do? And if we can figure out some of those things early where maybe the expense of time and energy and resources is free or low, it's really helpful to students not to have to make some career choices in their early 20s where they're really pricey to do. So if we can help them figure out what they don't want to do, it helps make that idea of what I do want to do. And then how do you get there? And that's really where we rely on our staff at our high schools, in this case, to help students make great course selections, figuring out what's next and how I'm going to do what I want to do next. All of that is a kind of an intro in, well, how do we do that from just a subject selection standpoint? And it's one step in the ACP process, but I'm going to have Denise cover that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
get that.
Oh, okay,
Forward.
perfect, okay. So I just realized that I was hired in January, so I am beginning this January my 28th year here in Janesville. First as a special ed teacher and 21 years as a school counselor at Parker, so.
The legend was right.
Right, or old. Okay, so the way subject selection starts at the high school level is we actually start with 8th grade students and move all the way through our juniors. We do a little bit something different with our seniors and what they're going to do after they graduate. But looking at just kind of our freshmen and what are their requirements for incoming freshmen, and then as they proceed through high school. The nice thing is that along with hearing it from the school counselors, hearing it maybe from some different teachers who are in SWS or AVID or some of those specialty programs, they also are hearing it in their freshman year from their link leaders at both high schools. So sometimes those link leaders will also talk to them about, now that I'm a junior or a senior, these are some things that I learned, student to student perspective, which we all know they listen to them more than the adults sometimes. So it's always good to hear that perspective. So we talk to the students in grades 9 and 10 just about how do you progress and how, if this is your goal in 9th grade, how do you get to that and get those experiences so that you have kind of solidified some things as a senior or as a junior going into your senior year. One of the ways we do that is we have started at both Craig and Parker our ACP conferencing. So students will take through Zello the matchmaker, and based on their matchmaker results during those October student parent teacher conferences, they will meet with someone who may be specialized in that area that came up on their interest. So, for example, any student who comes up with architecture or construction will meet with me. And then I will talk to them about, okay, well, not only do you need to take this English, math, science, social studies, but if you want a degree doing, HVAC, then you're definitely going to want to take this math class your senior year. You're going to want to take the construction sequence so that they're not getting to that junior and senior year and being like, well, I really wanted to do this capstone project or this capstone class, but now I can't because I didn't take the prereqs to get myself there. So we have seen we've only done that for the last 2 years, but it's been, the first year was a little slow, but this year we saw a significant increase in our parent and student engagement in that. And these meetings are no more than 15 minutes, just kind of, here's a 4-year plan that would get you to this. And if by this time you don't want to do this, please know that we are a comprehensive educational school system, so we can change this plan anytime you need to still fit the needs of whatever your goal might be. In junior year, they will also talk a little bit during personal finance, just kind of what does this mean? Because a lot of students are money driven, and so we will say, well, what do you think you need to make to live a lifestyle that you want to live? And part of Zello does have something where it's like, okay, well, I want to come out of the gate making this much money. Okay, well, here's the 4 jobs that you can do. And then they realize that and they're like, oh, and here's the schooling and here's everything else that you might need to do. And it kind of is very eye-opening for them because they will really get that hands-on experience about, oh, so I can't make this when I'm 22, but maybe. They also will go in and talk about the financial aid process if they are going on to college. We bring in financial FAFSA advisors from the college level as well, to talk to students and to even help them sometimes fill out their forms if the parent or the student needs additional assistance. We just had some advisors in, when our underclassmen were doing mastery prep, our seniors, we had an open platform for our seniors to come in, work on scholarship essays, and then also meet with college financial aid and college advisors if they still had some questions that weren't answered yet. So we try to give them as many opportunities as possible to work through this. So kind of looking at those pathways, like I talked about in the 9th grade year, what does this kind of career cluster? And not only if you have, if you are a parent yourself and your child is going on to a 2 or 4 year college, you will notice that they all are doing, all the colleges are also nationwide, also talking in clusters. So you're going into the health and science cluster, or you're going into logistics, or whatever it might be. When they're picking their classes or looking at majors at any of those schools, they're also done in the cluster format. And then that leads you to your program of study. And then, like I said, knowing that this is always flexible at the high school level. We do have some processes, there's AVID, and then, our alternative pathways for students. So at the middle school level, some students will be nominated for some of these additional supports or these different kind of paths. All of them will lead them to the same outcome. So whether you are in AVID or at Rock River Charter or RISE or Parker or Craig, all of those will lead you to whatever goal or whatever plan you might have for yourself post high school. We just want to make sure that everybody knows that everybody's plan is different and that there's other ways to get to that end game other than the traditional 4-year high school option. So how is this all done? So we start school in September with our students, and by October, Luke Hanwell at Craig and I are picking dates for subject selection for next year. And because we have to not only work with our 3 middle schools and make sure that they all have the same dates and can do the same times, but then we also work with the parochial schools in Janesville and make sure that they are on the same calendar and the same page as well, and that those dates and times all work for them. So our academic planning and our structure at the high school is 100% student-driven. So it is not like, maybe, okay, I'm gonna date myself maybe, but back in the day when either you had to go and pick classes in college and you stood in line and hoped that it didn't close, or you dialed in and hoped that there were still spots left. That is not how it is done at the high school level. What we do is students will, through a process of talking to teachers and talking to parents, talking to their peers, they will fill out a form and they will enter the courses that they would love to have for their next school year. So we are starting that process today. Students are having those conversations. The teachers are starting to have those conversations about like what level of math you should take next year and those things. Then when we get to that point, students will actually enter their course selection in the computer. During classes, we check it to make sure everything is correct. Do they have 8 classes first semester, 8 classes second? And then once all of our students have scheduled, then that is when the staffing process is done. So a class that may run this year, if it does not meet the requirements per the school board and the staffing plan, it will not run next year. And that is 100% student-driven. So if we do not have enough students taking that course or who have requested that course will not run for the following year. So that's how it's 100% done by the students. Obviously, we want, the students are the ones that have to take the class. So we want them to make a decision based on themselves because we do have, I always tell the 8th graders, we have 6 sections of English 9. You're probably not going to be with your friend. So make sure you're taking classes that you want to take and not that your bestie is in. We also want students to have a conversation with their parents. Should I be taking 5 AP classes and 2 TC and a Start College Now? That's a lot. So we want those conversations to be had. And then our teachers are also making recommendations. Like, you're sitting in this geometry class and you have 100% and you're not, it seems to be going very well. I really think you should try honors next year. And so they will make recommendations on the course sheet as well for students as to what they feel. The students can either agree with it or not, because ultimately they're the ones that have to take the class. We will advise them, though, that, let's say they want to go to UW-Madison and they haven't taken any of those honors courses, well, then it's going to be much more difficult for them to get to that post-secondary option that they may have if they're not having rigor in their coursework. And then ultimately, once everything is done in the end of January, then we kind of know what the staffing's going to be, then we hand it over to the administrators, and then they kind of do the nuts and bolts behind the scenes work on, okay, here's how many teachers I need, here's our sections, here's what's running, here's what is not. So just briefly, again, this process really starts like October, November with just picking dates, making sure all of that is taken care of. But then the first Thursday and Friday of December always is when we will have 8th grade tours at the high school. Those tours consist of really the students seeing more of the elective areas and not so much the core areas, because they all have to take English, math, science, and social studies. So what does a tech ed class or a FACE class or a choir class look like at the high school level? Because it probably looks very different than it did at the middle school. So we want to make sure that they get a good representation of what is going to be done in those classes. So we have 2 days of tours that the students go on of those elective areas. Then we meet many times with the 8th grade teachers just to kind of go over, here's any changes that happened, here's what you need to know for next year, so that they're aware of any changes as the 8th grade teachers are advising students. When we come back right off the gate from the winter break, we are then starting with our high school students. Along with getting them ready for finals, we are also talking about the next year with them and making sure that they're starting to get information about subject selection. So they'll get their sheets. They will start looking at the course catalog. Each one of our departments does approximately a 3-minute video about here's opportunities in our area. So they will watch those videos throughout the week, or, depending on when we decide to run those. They will get recommendations from their teachers. We encourage them to have conversations with their parents. We do not require a parent signature, simply because sometimes that holds up the process, but we encourage them to have conversations. And if parents call, we absolutely will have that conversation. When the window for subject selection opens, all students will do it in Infinite Campus, and all parents have access to that. So they could have their son or daughter pull up your Infinite Campus, I want to see what you put into the computer for next year. And they absolutely could do that. And then that window closes February 5th, I believe, this year. So then we kind of shut that down so no one can put anything in because our administrative team needs to get all the numbers to everybody else. So this is just another timeline of what that looks like. And then obviously, then building the masters. So once the school board approves the staffing plan, then it comes back to the high schools, okay, you're good to go. And then I work at Parker with Ms. Taronis, and her and I will run different reports in the computer. And Infinite Campus will schedule some of the classes, a lot of them. Here's how this works. I can go into the nuts and bolts, but I also don't want to bore you. So, but the computer tries to place the classes as much as possible based on student selection, but we do have to go in and hand select or place some classes at certain times based on teacher need or if it's a shared teacher. So we put all of those things in first, and then we will schedule courses and have the computer pick the least conflicts. Once that is done, and that takes, I would say, about 6 to 8 weeks, when you go through everything, then it's turned over to the school counselors. So we usually get things the end of April, beginning of May, to then go through, and then we have to hand schedule any students who have like holes in their schedule, basically. So this course didn't work because you picked this one and they're both the same hour. So then we will call in students to then make some decisions, or can we come up with something creative, or what do we need to do to make this schedule the best for you and for your plans? We also, the priority is that we need to meet with all of our soon-to-be seniors first, because in addition to that, we have to have all their schedules done before they leave because of the direct admit process through the through the UW system, because then our system uploads, or they upload schedules and transcripts from our system, from Infinite Campus, to then determine which students get direct admit into college. So if they don't have certain classes in their schedule for next year, if they, let's say they have a hole because one of their English classes doesn't work, it will look as though they're not going to graduate from high school, and therefore they will not get a direct admit letter. So we have to make sure all of that is finalized before they leave on June 11th this year, because it's hard to find them when they're out the door. So it's a crunch time for us just to make sure that we have all those senior schedules taken care of before they leave. And then we work on the incoming freshmen and sophomores and juniors to make sure all of their schedules are set. You know, a lot of times it's hand scheduling, like if a student has a disability or needs something special, then we have to go through and hand schedule some of those students. So that is kind of the process. So when parents ask, like, how come we don't have them done at the end of the school year? That's why, because it usually takes us all summer to get that taken care of. Because then we have to look at, in addition to all of this, if a student failed a course that needs to be made up, and then they, you know, we have to wait, did they go to summer school, did they not? And then put that course back in if they need it for graduation. So there's just some other things in there that also take some precedence, so. So just kind of the journey, you know, they explore in like middle school. We want them to take a variety of different things. We want them to really start focusing on what's my end game, what do I, you know, and we don't expect them to have the answer, right, for what do I want to be when I grow up. Statistically, I think it's like 83% of students who enter a four-year college change their major if they're not undecided already. So, but we want them to know that those options are available to them. And with our growing youth apprenticeship program and some of the things, you know, some of those capstone courses now that we have and some of our academies that we have, some of our students are really getting a real good hands-on experience as to, yep, this is absolutely what I want to do. Or, nope, I decided I don't want to do siding in the middle of winter. So they know what they want. And then eventually working with them so that we get to see them walk across the stage in 4 years. Questions?
Sorry.
Quick question, when you shared during your presentation that if they don't have enough classes that, you know, it gets closed and the student doesn't have it, what happens if a student had a career cluster and one of those classes that they needed had to be closed due to not enough people signing up for that? How do you accommodate for that student that they needs that course that you're not going to offer to be able to continue down in that career cluster?
Yeah, so it depends. There's a lot of factors that go into that. So one of them would be what grade is the student in? Because if they are a sophomore, they still have, maybe they can't do it their junior year, but they could take it their senior year. So we look at those options. We look at, is it running at Craig and not at Parker, or vice versa? Because then maybe there's some flexibility with them going over to Craig and taking the course, or coming to Parker to take the course. And then if neither one of those options, then we can look at like a Start College Now, early college credit. But sometimes that, you know, obviously is up to the board, and sometimes they get approved and sometimes they don't, because it is a course that we offer. It's just not that we're offering it that year. So there's a lot of different things that way that there are a lot of options that we can look at first in hopes that we can get them what they want.
And then my second question, I paused, and I'm just wondering if it was a recent change. I paused when you said you don't require parents' signatures on their course selections. Being a parent, just from that perspective, that bothers me.
Yeah.
Because I believe when my children went through it, I had to sign off on it.
So I would say we have not required it in probably 15 years.
I wonder if Craig has and not Parker, because
Yeah.
I
Now
distinctly
we
remember
always
signing
tell
off.
there's a line on there that says parent signature. So we will say, but will we?
So
If
what's
they
the
don't enter-
rationale for not requiring a parent to sign something off on a child that's usually a minor?
Okay,
Can you share
so-
the rationale for me?
Yeah, so, we have to have all of this done by February 5th. And if we don't get a do we allow the student to still schedule, or do we say now you don't get any courses because your parent won't sign this? Unfortunately, we have students who their parents will not sign anything.
So it's out of convenience to the school district that you proceed as opposed to making extra efforts to get a signature from a parent. I have a hard time with, I understand that there are certain crunch times and deadlines, but I have a hard time not having a parent's signature on courses for their minor children.
I would agree.
That's just my
No,
opinion.
I agree. I have 3 sons. One of them just graduated and the other one is a junior. I agree with you. But I completely understand where you're coming from on that, but also knowing that the students that I'm working with, I can make my best effort and go to the house and do all of the things, and I have, and I will not get that signature. It just doesn't happen. So then what?
Extenuating circumstances. I think
Yeah,
that's what it-
absolutely. There are always extenuating circumstances. And again, we always encourage students to have a conversation with their parents about what courses they're taking. That, unfortunately, that conversation does not happen in all households.
Yeah.
So we do our best, but we know we have not required, like, you can't enter this if you don't have your parents sign it. Because students have their computers and they can access their subject selection at 4 o'clock in the morning if they want to. There's no window. Once it's open and they can put those courses in.
So my follow-up question to that is those parents that you would never get a signature on a course selection sheet, how do you get their signature to enroll them when I had to go through the enrollment process and I need all of those signatures? Like, you have to like electronically sign off. There's deadlines for that.
Yeah.
How do you get that then?
We don't.
Then how are those children enrolled?
Because
then?
if they're already in the district, it rolls over. And so I don't know what happens at the
Every year.
district level, but I know that, yeah.
No, I get that. I feel like there might be some, yeah, I'll just stop. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I agree with you. It's a minor child. There should be some parental involvement or an adult involvement. And I will say that when it comes to some of those cases, like, I have some students where I will work one-on-one with them and really advise them, not any more than any other student, but really just kind of, I'm more conscientious maybe, that I know that nobody is advising them at home on what they should be taking, but I know what this is that their end game is. So I will make sure that they're doing that, and every counselor does that. So, yeah.
Just quick follow, what do you think the percentage of kids you don't get signatures for is? I'm
Oh,
guessing
it's
it's a
low.
small percent.
It's low, yeah. It's not a significant amount. I don't want to just throw a percentage out
No,
there if I
yeah.
don't know, but it's not significant, no.
Oh, thank you, this was good. This is my first year with a freshman in this new process of October meetings, and it
Yeah.
was smooth, it was really good. And I do believe they brought up youth apprenticeships. Elevate, I don't think was brought up, but I would like us to see
Because it's
more
called
on-
JBA now.
Right, but Chris, I bring this up often, I would like us to continue to do more to promote those really awesome programs that we have, and that would, just like in these discussions too. Because to your point, Chris, that's how Aubrey found out what she didn't want to do. So those are such good things that I just wish we would do more to promote and bring up to parents. I only know about it because I'm here,
Sure.
if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So anyway, just another plug for that kind of stuff.
Well, you
This
should
is
see the
helpful.
new promotional videos that are coming out any day now. So
you
they're
know you're gonna
awesome,
do
because
that
I
yesterday,
just
didn't you?
watched the youth apprenticeship one today, actually. So there are videos that students will see regarding our any youth apprenticeship program that we have, along with work experience and some of those capstone, like JBA.
But I also want parents to see them.
Right, and
because-
so, yeah.
The kids aren't gonna make the best, Easton, I had to push him into Elevate.
Mm-hmm.
And make him get out of his comfort zone, and it went well.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have He never would have done
Yeah,
that on his own.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know that at Parker, we will post the videos on our website, but again, you'd have to go, but I know, yes, right? So, I mean, there's definitely something, maybe we need to do that in our next Parker Pulse, is send something out with a link. Here's the link to the videos if you would like to watch them. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was gonna question. I know students that I've advocated for in the past for those programs where I've reached out to the coordinators to say, like, find this kid because this kid would be really great. But, like, there are kids all around that their parents may not know. We know
Yeah.
about these programs because of the work that we do. I don't think the average family has any idea about some of these specialty programs. Elevate is a great example. I would love for there to be more educational opportunities for parents to learn about them early on. And also, we're talking about the suggestions for honors or the regular course. Is that's just communicated with the student? Is that?
It's communicated, I believe an email's also sent
Okay.
to the parents.
Okay. 'Cause that would be-
From the teacher, like,
would be
hey, this
great.
is my recommendation,
All
and then they also will sign that subject selection form with the recommendation
Okay.
of whether, you should go to, and it would say specifically Algebra 2 honors, or,
Great.
what, AP pre-calc, or whatever it might be.
That's wonderful. I just, like Michelle, I have a child who is like, I'm not taking any of those AP courses, Mom. I'm not gonna do, like, well, hold on. So I think there are a lot of kids people that don't see that for themselves and
Right.
do need guidance. They do need some hand-holding or encouragement. So I just, we're always advocating as parents who have had kids go through the district, there are times where we don't know things. And if, as involved parents as we have been through all the work we do, and we're saying that, I know there are other parents that, just don't have a chance to learn. So,
Yeah.
all of this work that you're doing is amazing. I'm so impressed. This is a huge undertaking. So I feel bad saying, now please communicate with me. I'm sorry.
But I think more information, the better, right?
Right,
It's
and-
always important to, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And we're learning a lot, continually. I've been doing this for, 21 years, and I now have a son who's starting his freshman year of college, and I was like, whoa, this is different. And I think parents need to understand that too, that when I went to college, it's not the same college that he is going to now. It is a very different experience, and everything is different about it. It's very eye-opening just in all of it. And so I think it's also important, like you said, educate parents, because when we went to high school, or when we went to college or tech school or whatever it might be, it's not the same. Parents just think, well, if my kid doesn't graduate from high school, they'll join the military. No, they won't, because you have to have a high school diploma now. And if you have your GED, then you have to go to college for 6 months before you can join the military. So there's a lot of different things that way that have changed in years where they have this mindset, and it's not because that's just the way it's always been. It's just that if you aren't familiar with the information on a daily basis, you're not going to know it.
Absolutely.
So, and we're fortunate enough where we're allowed to go to trainings because it changes from year to year. So we go to the UW workshop every year. We go to the technical school workshops and the WEAC workshops every year because it's always changing and the degrees are always changing. So.
And Direct Admit is launched and all.
Oh, yeah.
The whole
Yeah,
game
that was
has
a fun year.
changed.
Yeah.
Smooth, right?
Yeah, it was super smooth between that and then Act whatever, like the two different things that are the same but different, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know it's an immense amount of work, and thank you for all of the consideration. Thanks for your time here today
Oh, yeah,
and sharing
absolutely.
this with you.
Yeah.
We're so appreciative of the information that our students are getting to have them start their high school and then be able to graduate with all of the tools that they need. So, and we've all graduated people from the district here, so we've seen it all in action, and it's pretty impressive. Thank you.
You're welcome, yeah. Feel free to reach out if you have
Any other
additional questions.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
I will say maybe two things. One, thank you, Denise, for bringing expertise to the situation and that much experience. One of the things I think for the board that's important to remember is the scheduling process for the high schools in particular is the staffing process. We staff from that. So at times you'll get complaints, well, my kid couldn't change that class. Yeah, because we staffed based on that. And so we can't do that anymore. We did have more flexibility with that maybe a decade ago. We don't have it anymore. We are staffed tight on things and make choices, and unfortunately there are times we have to make choices. We don't run a class. And we have kids who want the class. We just don't have enough of them. And I think we'd all like to say we'd like to run, and if a kid wants it, we'd like it to be able to, we just can't do it. So I think that's one thing to remember. And I think the other thing is, I don't know if I'll work long enough to say, you know what, we are absolutely nailing communication better than anybody on the planet. We can always get better. We can always get better. If, you probably have, but other people, if you'd like to read the 119-page course guide, it is all in there. Everything's in there. But we also know that not everybody's going to piece through that monster. But we do have a place for some of it. We got to do a better job. We will get the videos. Chris Madkey did a great job working with our kids and staff and former and graduates. Like, the videos are awesome. Yeah, all over.
Just even if you could just take a snippet of that video and even put it on social media just to gauge the interest of the parents, like just do a 30-second reel of that video and say, hey, it's coming out in the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told Mark he needs to start a podcast just for parents.
There we go.
And there you go.
Matchas with Mark? Is that what it is?
Okay, strategic priorities update presentation. Mr. Holzman and Dr. DeGraff and Chris Menwalt. Your name's on there again. I am so sorry that you did not, but thank you so much for the call out there. Thank you for being here.
Okay, I will be brief, but kind of give you the big picture overview on what our goal is to accomplish today. We're going to talk a little bit about our planning and strategic priority areas. We've talked about that in the district, and just really want to talk to you a little bit about our development, a little bit of how Studer works within our group development and what our progress has been. We'll talk a little bit about the district and school alignment and how we continue to have a model that we want the district to have our priorities and the school to continue to have those improvement strategies underneath. We'll show you some examples of what a 100-day plan looks like from the district level and from the school level, how we're processing and managing those goals, and then, like we said, we're going to show you an example of how one building that does it exemplary. So. The big picture that I can share with you in our strategic priorities, it's almost 2 years ago now that we updated our district strategic goals. And from that standpoint, we identified student academic excellence, staff excellence, operational excellence, and family community partnerships. We had been honed in on the development and continue improvement process for our student academic goals for 3 or 4 years now. And we really identified math, reading, and attendance as our 3 goals. And so we've robustly worked on the process of improving outcomes and measurement scopes, and we've actually even changed how we've measured the outcomes for math, reading, and attendance to some extent. And what you're going to see now and as we move forward is that we've added staff excellence, operational excellence, and family community partnerships to those 4, to make that 4 instead of 1. So as we're going to have presentations to the district and to the board about update of goals, we'll continue to be focused on what matters most, which is student outcomes. But we also know that those student outcomes can't be achieved without people, without mission, as Dan will say, no mission, no money, no money, no mission, right? And trying to make sure we align that. And then part of that is family community partnerships. How are we communicating, getting feedback, and et cetera. So the overview that we have is the things that we're going to talk about in student excellence. You've heard that rhetorically. You should be able to, and I hope you understand that we're measuring reading, math, and attendance, right? And that our goals are measured on ACT and the forward exams. Like, I hope that everybody knows that. But what we're moving towards now is how do we include this to be a great place to work? And so we want to, the staff goals, that priority says, insist on a culture of professional growth to cultivate skilled, motivated, and a connected workforce. We want this to be a great place to work. So to measure student achievement based on state assessments is a tool that's pretty easy. I feel like, well, we got that. To measure this is a great place to work takes a little bit more detail behind the scenes. And so the first thing that we said that we were going to do is we're going to find out what our certified and non-certified staff say about working in a school district, Janesville. We're going to do a survey. So as we move towards that operational excellence, we know that one of the things that we're working on, and you'll see that we had talked about in the past, is we did a Leader Go First survey district-wide with how we're achieving kind of partnerships with the district leaders, our principals, coordinators, and people in the central office. And what we found was that we got to do better at customer service. And that customer service was increasing our mean score really on how do we do a better job of completing what we say we're doing, whether that's work orders, whether that's communication, whether it's just customer service. We were at a 4.05 out of 5, right? And we need to get better than that. So we set a standard goal for that. In addition to that, we know that we want to make sure that we're continuing these partnerships. What does it look like? You know, we had some goals, and I said we all circle around, hey, we want to increase the number of kids who are in youth apprenticeship. Okay, well, okay, we did that. But what does that look like? How do we measure some of those things? How do we measure the increased partnerships? What do our parents feel about sending their kids to school? What do our kids feel about attending school? So what you're going to see there is we have some 3 surveys that we did. We got some net promoter score data. I'm going to present all of this to you, the survey information to you in February. But it really just talks about the baseline of where we're starting. So what I would share with you, I don't know if that, okay, I'll get all those on there. What I would share with you is that our progress monitoring at our district level is a little bit different. And that second slide just takes a few snapshots from our district goals in terms of the directors and myself and what we're working on, specifically under staff excellence, operational excellence, and family and community partnerships. And so working with Kathy, our coach, and identifying progress, you can see that we have individual progress measurements about what that looks like within our department, what each department is doing to work towards that. Our ultimate goal is that our district reports and feedback to you is no longer just reading, math, and attendance. It also includes staff excellence, operational excellence, and family and community partnerships. Without a doubt, student outcomes will continually grow to the top of the list. Like, that matters probably most about the outcomes of our kids. But the others and the growth of excellence is not going to be accomplished without improving the outcomes in the 3 others. And so that's the big picture that I want to share with you. And you're going to see that within those 100-day plans, that's going to happen is as we work through, I said leaders go first. So we created this leadership model. We shared out the survey data with all of our principals. Now they're going to go forward and they're going to identify, in this model we use a 3-2-1, 3 areas that they recognize that they're celebrating, 2 areas within their data that they have to improve, thinking about, and 1 action item that they're going to take. And so that action item is what's going to ultimately be in their 100-day plan. And so you're going to hear about that moving forward, that the action item isn't going to be, hey, we're going to, I don't know, fill in the blank. It's going to be something in student excellence, staff excellence, and family community partnerships. And likely one of those areas, it's interesting that will be, is in family and community collaboration. One of the survey data that you'll get information about is parents' feedback on how their kid's doing at school. So that's one area that we might want to improve on, like what does that look like? So we could create, for example, a measured tool that says we're going to have, fill in the blank, 1 parent feedback through email or phone call prior to each parent-teacher conference. I mean, I just made up that piece as we go, and then we're going to measure that. How are we doing specifically on that specific goal? So I wanted to make sure that just in general, as I introduce this, that there are some things that you've seen that we're going to continue to do and we're going to continue to be focused on. But there's some things that are that we've been doing, but we haven't been measuring and monitoring that you're going to see coming forward. And so I am going to turn this over to Allison, and she's going to move. I'm going to not take her slide, and how this works at the district and building level.
Thank you, and good afternoon. So, as Superintendent Holtzman shared, we are looking at the 4 priority areas, and we've developed specific action steps under those 4 priority areas at the district level. The main focus within our building school improvement plans and 100-day cycles is under the student excellence priority area. So, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what that school improvement plan process and developing those 100-day improvement cycles looks like. And as you heard from Superintendent Holtzman, we're going to continue to build those out in the future. So this is what it looks like under student excellence. And then in the future, we'll want to see this continue to build around family and community engagement, and operational excellence and staff excellence. So you have an idea of what that process looks like. This first slide represents systems thinking and alignment. And so when you look at these arrows, the arrows really represent the importance of creating clear systems and alignment in order to have the greatest impact with K-12 achievement. And so, that first set of arrows, there are some arrows pointing in the right direction, but that really tells us there's really pockets of great things happening, which we know that has always been the case in our district too. But we've continued to work hard to move to that aligned impact. And so what are some things we're doing in this process with our 100-day improvement cycles that are leading us to this aligned impact? We've started to see growth this year. We have a lot of growth yet to do, but we are getting our arrows aligned and moving in the same direction, and we have a lot of work that we will continue to do with that. So what does that work look like? You are familiar with this slide as well. You probably saw it at a previous board presentation. But when we know we cascade our goals and we have the district strategic goals and scorecard, and they align to the school goals, that helps teachers align to their classroom goals. And this year, as we continue to bring even more alignment, one thing that we really have been focused on is students at the K-11 level, because it's iReady and Mastery Prep, are creating individual student goals as well in reading and math that are aligned. So it's important that we roll out those district goals so we see that cascading alignment. This is a visual representation of a picture from SAIL in November. So specifically, all of our K-12 schools, including our charter schools as well, attend the SAIL process and our 100-day planning. It's an important process because it really brings together not just the principal, but we have teacher leaders there too as well. And a shift that we've made to continue to see more alignment at K-12 is we've always worked with our superintendent and the director's team and Chris and I to really create those aligned goals with the school improvement plan from the district goals. And then we've worked through the process with schools. Some of that we had done at the elementary and secondary level separately. Now we're coming all together in one room multiple times throughout the year. Say, we all have the same outcome. We want to increase reading and math. And so we're on this journey all together. It might look a little bit different at Harrison than it does at Parker because we have different needs and different data, but we're all moving towards that same outcome. So we have really met 3 times so far. We meet in June, and in June, we're really looking at the end of the year data and all of that forward and ACT data to really say, how did we do? Did those action steps in our 100-day plan lead us to the results we were expecting? Or are there still gaps and holes? And so then they determine those gaps and holes are what are going to help guide us as we develop a plan in August in literacy and math. When we meet in August, first the district rolls out their goals, then the building does, so it's aligned, and then teachers develop their classroom goals. And so that's what happens in August. November here is where they reviewed their first 100-day action plan, and they determined, are the action steps we are doing working, or do we need to make an adjustment? And so kind of looking at that beginning of the year data and determining what their next steps are and writing the next 100-day plan. So what does that agenda look like a little bit? This is an example of the agenda from November, and so you can see it's really intentional time, and you'll probably hear from Dr. Grant today too. It's, you know, we always want to be looking and reflecting on our goals and our action steps, but to have the dedicated time for a full day with your teacher leaders is really valuable, because it's hard to find that time within the school day. So that has been very much appreciated at the K-12 level. So again, really, they're looking at their 100-day plan, reviewing their action steps. They're looking at their current data so far from the fall to November. They're looking at all those kids in the target group that were really assessed on the school report card and saying, what is their data saying so far? They also look at walkthrough data. So for example, in their action steps, they have to identify an instructional practice that they want to focus on to improve. So if the instructional practice might be small group instruction in math, and so they will create walkthrough data. So if we're saying we're going to improve in small group instruction in math, what does that look like? So the teachers have indicators. We send teachers to go into teachers' classrooms to see, hey, how are they doing it? Can I gain some ideas from other teachers? Or other teachers can say, I learned something new today from my colleague, as well as principals will go into, and also if we say this is what we want to do well, we have to find a way to monitor it. So we look at our walkthrough data, what are our strengths and growth in that instructional practice, and we look at our student data, and then spend the afternoon writing those new 100-day action steps. One of the things that we also talk about is, as you're familiar with, many of you have the book Hardwiring Excellence. And so really that is a framework. It's a leadership framework, and there's 9 principles. And it's a framework or a roadmap for achieving and sustaining organizational excellence. And so when we meet, we have looked at some of these chapters during principal meetings, but also when we're at our 100-day improvement cycle process for the day, we want to call out, here's the leadership strategy, or here's the leadership strategies we are improving today. So the 2 we focus on at SAIL are we're measuring what matters, and we're holding ourselves accountable. And so when we're measuring at what matters, we're looking at leading and lagging data. So leading data is, as you know, it might be our unit assessments, our quizzes, our iReady, our Mastery Prep, because we still have those students in front of us, and we can see what they're not doing well or what they are, and we can make adjustment now. Lagging data is forward in ACT. Those students are leaving us, so I can't really make an adjustment with this group of kids, but it might find trends in that grade level or content area. And 5 whys is we're really looking at, when we look at that leading data, what is telling us we're still not doing well? We need to do a root cause analysis. We need to ask ourselves 5 why questions of why this isn't improving, and then what are we going to do differently? Being accountable is about facing, we talk about the brutal facts. We have to say what we're not what areas we need to grow in and approach them and figure out a plan, rather than if we don't do anything, they won't change. And then how do we continue to hold ourselves accountable? So one additional step that we have added, I think that's, there we go, is, again, as we continue to talk about moving those arrows aligned and a systems approach, Chris and I, as well as Kim supports us on this as well, we go to all 20 schools each month. We're there more often than that, but specifically to look at their 100-day improvement cycle and action steps. So we do a monthly checkpoint. And so when we meet with them, sometimes it's meeting with the principal individually, and sometimes it's meeting with the principal and the teachers. And so we'll look at their 100-day plan, highlight in green what action steps have you completed, what are in progress, and what haven't we done yet. And you can see what's highlighted, like the blue, is a link to show us what's your current data telling us if you're making progress. So it's not about like, this is a gotcha or anything. It's, let's have a conversation, like what's going well, what do we need to change? Also from the district level, are there supports and resources you need that, or barriers you're finding that we can help you with? So it, again, is that accountability checkpoint, and that happens every month as we walk through this. In December, I was at a school in December for their checkpoint, and as I was leaving, one of the teachers said, I just want you to know this is so different than a few years ago, because before this school improvement plan, we would pull it out maybe quarterly or mid-year and we'd put in our updated data, but she said, this is a living document. Like, I'm looking at this weekly and daily. She said, because it's our roadmap, because our goal is to have a small number of goals that we're focused on and not too many. And I looked in their conference room, they've taken their 100-day plan and they've cut it apart and it's on the walls. And then they've created a monthly chart. And the teachers come in each month and write how their students did on their unit assessment, and then when they're gonna give their formative assessment to see how their progress is before the next unit. And that's just become a part of the culture in how they continue to, it doesn't feel like it's something they have to do, it's something they want to do, because this is truly what's guiding them. And so to see that shift and to hear somebody say that without asking that's wonderful. So that's getting the arrows in the right direction and continuing to move in the direction we want to move. So Chris is going to talk a little bit more too, and tell you a little bit more about a couple other things in that process as they develop their 100-day plan.
I would just like to point out that how this works, the chair of the committee decides to dress a certain way, and then the people who do things all wear purple pants, purple shirts, purple dresses. I'm just trying to, so I'm going to talk a bit more about what, from our perspective and a district perspective, in setting up the planning process that we still use, I guess, maybe affectionately, maybe not affectionately, call SAIL in our school improvement plan. And this is an example of one of the things we ask them to do. We do talk a lot about data, and we ask them to make data-based decisions and what's happening and what we're going to do next, and why did something not work, and what should we try instead, and all those sorts of things. And they're very important. But we also think that culture is really important, and we ask them to reflect on what's happening in our building, and these three questions in particular, and ask them just to be honest, like how are things going? And here's just one example of one of our schools, and they say, some things are going great, and some things, we got to work on, right? There's something, and in this particular case, they've got some ideas of some things they'll work on. We really think that's important. We do talk about the difference between structure and culture, and how to make sure that those mesh. So this is just one of the exercises they do early on in the process when they're with us. Next thing they do is they start looking at plus deltas, what's working well, and what's something we have to improve. Here's an example of one of the schools, and they said, well, this is what we think we've done a really good job of in the last 100 days, and we think the 100-day plan process is manageable in breaking up everything from kind of the late summer through the end of the year. And I think one of the things that's happened for Allison and I is, Mark talked about how we've kind of changed how we look at math and reading and how we measure that, and that's true. And I'd like to think that Allison and I have just gotten better at getting the structure tighter of how we can help people through the process and what it looks like. And first we do step A, then we do step B, then we do step C, and we are very consistent, and this is the first year we took all the schools together, and I think that worked really well. And in fact, our feedback was it did go well. The principals appreciated being in the room together. It gives them a chance to talk to each other sometimes. Another school just looked at what are our next steps in ELA and math. Just gives you an idea of, hey, here's what we think we need to do and where we're at. One of the things that we have found that our schools really like is a 15-day challenge. It's 3 weeks time. Hey, we can get this done and just focus on this for 15 days. Some of our schools really, really like this. In fact, so much so that they do 2 different 15-day challenges. So we're meeting in the mid-November here. Some of them did a 15-day challenge in December and then came back with a different one for January, because in their school culture, that works really well for them. Some of them plan it in different ways. So here's just some examples. I'm going to shoot some up there of some things that our schools have decided to do for their 15-day challenge. This one relates to relationships. Here's another one that's relating to things in small group and differentiation from last year in PLTs. Another one looking at how we're going to have some conversations in PLTs with special educators, and another one talking about some fidelity checks at the elementary level. So really just looking at, hey, here's something we can focus on and get everybody just one thing right now, right? We're just going to try to get better at this right now and move on. And then last, we asked them to really examine, here's 2 examples of looking at why are you doing what you're doing? I think we've gotten better at saying, it's not enough to say, well, we should change that. How come? Well, because we think we should. How come? Right? What data do you have to say? And so some of it is, we have some fidelity walk data that we're saying, we're just not doing this as well. We checked. We're not. Sometimes we're looking at our student data on our CSAs isn't where it needs to be, or our CFAs. But we're getting much better at looking at more discrete pieces of data to say we need to make things change during the process instead of waiting till the end when it's much, much too late. And so taking leadership teams through the process of saying, well, where's your data, right? What type of fidelity check have you had, or what kind of data do you have with your CSAs or CFAs? You can see an example here of target groups. Our schools are much more aligned in identifying their group of target group students and who they are and naming and claiming them. There's just been a lot of work done, and you'll hear a little bit of what's done at Harrison at one of the schools, but I could tell you that all of our schools have certainly gotten tighter in how we look at more discrete pieces of data, and it's been positive. We're seeing positive results for it. And then the last thing you've heard us say over and over, 100-day plan, right? We're doing these 100-day plans. This is a couple of just examples of this. Is an ELA and a math 100-day plan. And that's not the whole plan, it's just all I could fit on the screen. We do not encourage them to have 17 different steps in a 100-day plan. We said, what are things that you're going to do? And then these are the things that when we're out in buildings, we can come back to. And it's one of the things I know for me, I won't speak for Allison, that we have tightened up and made this easier, I think, for people to complete. And it's much easier for us to understand, well, where are you at? Right? I can look at this and like, there's nothing here, so tell me, where are you at? Are you done with it? Did it work? Did it not work? What data do you have? And those conversations have been much more productive than in the past when maybe we haven't been quite so tight a few years ago in where we looked at it. And Allison's example of they've become living documents is ideal, which is where we want to go. But just some examples, and all of our schools have these. I won't say that I look at them daily. I will say that I'm in people's plans pretty frequently because we're out there monthly and looking at ahead and sometimes checking to see if like, okay, what am I going to see and what questions am I going to have beforehand going out there. So the next piece we're going to do is Jess is going to talk about how all of this stuff that we've talked about, well, how does it cascade down? You know, the slide with the arrow and where it goes. Jess is going to talk about, well, this is where it goes. Oh, I'll do this really, really quick. This is just kind of just shows, of us trying to help the schools and their leadership teams know this is what's coming, right? Here's your ELA goals. This is what we're going to do with it. Here's your math goals. Here's what we're going to do with it. Mark talked about the 3-2-1 process on the survey data, right? We've already added a tab to everybody's SIP, right? Okay, what's your one of your 3-2-1, right? What's your survey data response? So we're just trying to help people be really organized and not, one of the things we'll talk about, try not to guess what's on Chris and Allison's mind, right? Here's what's on our mind right there, right? Purple.
I don't have purple, I have like some future.
Oh, that works.
Can we
That'll
count
work.
that? I'm gonna count that.
That'll work.
And purple always goes good with gray, so you're
I'm in, thanks, Lisa. All right, so thanks for having me here tonight. When Dr. DeGraff said, hey, do you want to present at PPC at 6 o'clock on the Monday after break? I said, absolutely, I am there, Allison. That is exactly what I want.
She was on speakerphone.
Yeah, it was, woo, yes. Honestly, they could have asked any principal to be here tonight because all of us have experienced this and all of us have really seen some really positive growth. And so I'm just here on behalf of all of my colleagues across the district just to share a little bit about what this looks like then from a building perspective, because Chris and Allison and Mark, I think, did a really nice job of setting it up from the district perspective. So why was the November sale time so important from the building perspective, right? So as they mentioned, first of all, it's just dedicated time with our teams. It seems like that should be an easy thing, but when you're in the day-to-day of it all, that is really, really difficult. And so the district administration makes that a priority so that it's a priority for all of us, which is hugely helpful. And as Allison mentioned, it's not just the principals that are there anymore. It's us there with our teacher leaders. So I've been a principal here now for 15 years. And so it really did start out just like me in my office by myself, you know, kind of coming up with a plan of what I was going to do. And what we do today is so far from that and so much improved from how that started. It's really kind of crazy to think about how we used to do it. So just that dedicated time, what gets scheduled gets done, and that the district makes that a priority for us is really, really helpful on the building end of things. And then I think it's really powerful to have all of us in the same room at the same time. Like they mentioned, that's really the first time that we've done that, this time with K-12. And I loved it. I said, first of all, like the consistency and the alignment, going back to the arrows, we're literally all in the room hearing the same thing at the same time. And so I don't think that you can ever discount that. I think that that's really powerful. For me as an elementary principal, I'm on my own in my school like all the time. I don't have another administrator. I don't have an AP. I don't, so anytime I can be in a room with my colleagues to be able to crowdsource and go to them directly as we're working through this process, that's hugely powerful as well. And then I think there's also like power just in the symbolism of us all being in that room together at the same time. It takes all of us moving in the same direction to move this district. And so I think there's power in that too. So then how do we use our time at sale? I think Chris and Allison did a nice job just sort of going through that for you guys and sort of walking you through that. We spend a lot of time reviewing our student data, and that's something that we've always done, even 15 years ago in the dark ages when I was just by myself, I was looking at student data. But I think one of the really powerful things now is that we're spending much more time and attention looking at our adult practices data. So what are we doing or not doing as adults that are going to have a positive impact on those student outcomes? So within the context of Harrison, one of the things that we're looking at is high quality small group instruction. That's really an instructional practice that we're looking at. And so through this wholesale process, We wrote an adult learning framework, which we call an ELF, and that has all the indicators of like, okay, what do we think high quality small group instruction looks like? How are we going to know it when we see it? So we got really clear about what that looks like. And then we taught all of our teachers what that looks like. Like, hey, this is what it means. When I say high quality small group instruction, this is what it means. It's what it looks like, what it sounds like. This is what I'm going to be looking for when I come into your rooms. So we got really, I think, a lot more clear and tight about that adult practice data. And so we spend time at the sale, on our sale days, looking at that adult data as well. So it's not just time for the student data, but adult practice data as well. We talk about what can we celebrate in our data, because that's something that in the day-to-day busyness of everything, sometimes we forget that, and it's hugely important to be able to stop and celebrate those wins. So we figure out what are those wins that we can celebrate, and then we look at that data, okay, what isn't going well? And then we get into that root cause analysis that Dr. DeGraff talked about too, with those 5 whys, and really getting clear about, okay, why do we think we're not getting, the success that we're looking for, and what are we gonna do differently as a result? And then the afternoon really is that critical time then to take that root cause analysis and put that into an action plan and create that roadmap for the next 100 days. So that's what we do while we're there. And then really, it doesn't stop there. The magic continues to happen when we go back. And so once we go back to our buildings, then we roll out the plan. And the nice part, again, because we were there in a team, it's no longer the principal rolling that out. In fact, I make a point to not be the one rolling it out. So it is all my teacher leaders who are really rolling that out to their peers and their colleagues, and rolling out that plan and saying, this is why, and this is how we got here, and this is what we did, and this is the process. And that's so powerful. And so I think that really does a lot to build that shared vision and that collective efficacy, that we are all in this together, and it's going to take every single one of us in this room to put this plan into action and get the results that we need to get for our students. So we do the rollout. I think it's really important to acknowledge that this is our roadmap. This is what we use to guide everything that we do. And there, I know Superintendent Holzman mentioned like the staff student survey that we did in the fall. And there's a question on there about, I know I have clear expectations for what I need to do as a staff member or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And it was one of the highest rated scores for the district, and also one of the highest scores for Harrison. And I think the school improvement plan is a big part of that, because it is very clear, like, this is what we're expecting. That adult learning framework, very clear what those look fors are. And so I think that the school improvement plan in this process, I think, played a role into some of those scores that we saw in the survey too. But I think the nice part for me is I feel like the 100-day plans help keep us on a path. It's very easy to feel like you're playing whack-a-mole and you've got to go over here and do this, and then you're going over here and you're doing this. The 100-day plan really keeps us focused on the things that we found from the data, and our best collective thinking is going to get us the results that we're looking for. So I really, really appreciate that. So at Harrison, our motto is we're just going to take one next step to be greater than we were before. So that's what we do, and that's how we approach this sale process and our SIP 100-day plans. So I think that the teachers appreciate that too, that they know when we come back from sale, we're not going in a 180-degree complete other direction. Nope, we're going to continue on. We started with high-quality small group instruction, and we are going to continue on that path and take the one next step. So I think that that's super helpful too. And then, like Allison and Chris mentioned, that ongoing support from district administration, that they come out monthly to meet with our teams to ask us, hey, have you thought about this? Or, hey, I noticed this in your data. That's pretty awesome. I hope you guys are celebrating that. And so just this ongoing process where it's not just at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year. It really is much more of an ongoing process, a much more living document, like Dr. DeGraff said, than it ever has been before. And so, I've been a principal now for a while and gone through a lot of different iterations of these school improvement plans. And I would definitely say without hesitation that this is the tightest, most aligned, most commonsensical, most impactful process that I've ever had for this. And so I'm super excited about it, and I really just appreciate the support that we get from the district too to make this possible. Any questions from a building end of things?
I don't have any questions, but that was so encouraging. Because we hear about the 100-day plan, we know about these sale things, and we know, but it's so powerful to hear from you and all of these pieces that are put together. It's exciting. I wish we could wherever the picture was of you all at Blackhawk Tech, it would be great to just be a little fly on the wall and see all of this buzzing going around. That's so great. So if we said we're getting rid of the 100-day plan, you'd be like, no.
I would probably still do it, Elizabeth. Yeah.
I'm totally joking,
Yes.
by the way. But I mean, that's fantastic. And I hope that you share with your staff, when I started, I was in the office by myself, and how meaningful this is for all of them and the community that we're investing in all of this work together. Because I think sometimes, especially some of the newer teachers that just don't have that historical frame of reference, to know that so much work has happened, I think that'd be great to share. And also, I think it's so awesome for us to see and know, things that we put into place 10 years ago and then 9 years ago, and as we've been building and building and building, have led to this moment where you say we're at this tightest place and this is so helpful, and here's why. So thanks for your time. I know it's probably a long day today.
I'm just teasing. It has been a great evolution, and to be part of that and to see how far we've come and to where we are today, it is pretty awesome.
Well, and it's nice to see you again, because I'm not seeing you at band concerts.
I know, that's
and
true.
everything,
So, hi, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything and for all the
Absolutely.
work in putting this together. I think as board members who have been here for a few years, to see this kind of culmination right now, it's like I had goosebumps, because I'm like, we've talked about this in 2019, we've talked about this in 2021, and it takes a lot of work. So I don't want that to be shadowed. My aha moment during this presentation was something that I think a lot of community members don't understand, that it does take, I know people don't like the word administration, but administration is important, and you all play a role. If somebody watches this presentation and does not understand the work that superintendent and Chris and Allison do each and every day to get us to this point, I think is an understatement. So sometimes people don't like the cost of what administration holds, but it creates that structure. And before somebody used the word organized, I'm like, yep, you are organizing and creating systems and processes to put in place to get us to be the tightest spot we've ever been in the last decade. That takes time, that takes faculty, or, people, and I don't want that to be overstated, especially as we look to probably another operational referendum down. I mean, the work that they do is important, and it wouldn't allow us to get to this point and hear these wonderful commentaries from principals like yourself if we didn't have that. So
Absolutely.
a big thank you to all the work, because this
This doesn't just happen.
this just doesn't happen.
This doesn't just happen,
It's kind of
people.
like when I think about your sale time.
Yeah.
Like, you have to structure and devote that time together.
Yep.
And we heard from you how important it is to bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that the district does not discount that and carves out that time for all of you to come together. Because you are, if I was a principal, I'd be running over to you going, what are you doing?
Yeah,
and running,
absolutely.
because you don't have that time. You are, like you said, and sometimes you feel like you're whack-a-mole. I would call it squirrel. It really keeps you focused, and somebody had to give you that focus.
Absolutely.
And again, that structure was provided to you.
Yes.
Because you're busy doing the day in and day out.
Yep.
So I don't want
exactly.
community members to not lose sight of that they're doing important work. I don't think anybody thinks you're just sitting in your office twiddling your thumbs. Some people might. They're not, folks.
They're not. They're definitely
Go
not.
back and reread this presentation. So that's my little to-do.
Super quick, two things. Your excitement in this, again, all the work is great. so good. Thank you for getting us here, and your excitement is so contagious. I hope that it spreads. So I loved hearing, Allison, when you said that one school's got it all around. How do we replicate that best? I feel like it's a best practice. How can we replicate her excitement, that focus, visual boards or whatever it is? I actually was reading this on Friday afternoon, and I sent that arrows thing to my boss, because our
Yeah.
workplace could use this as well. So he's like 100%. But anyway, no, thank you for everything, all the work you guys are all doing, and then for your excitement and contagious. I love it. I think it's so good. Yeah, enthusiasm. Thank you.
I just wanted to add two things. I think, one, you mentioned the importance of having the teachers there, and I think another reason, I mean, that, you know, they're doing the really hard work every day in the classroom, and so when we write these action steps, what's critical is they're not afraid to say, yeah, that's too much. So it's like, these have to be manageable steps, and so they're kind of, you know, the people who help us ensure that we're being mindful of everybody and that we're not trying to do too much, because we all want to get somewhere faster, but sometimes faster isn't always better. And so I love that the teachers are there, and when I go out to Harrison or any of the elementary buildings, that they're also not afraid to give me feedback about, you know, here, has the district thought about this or this? So, and then I just also want to give another shout out to Dr. Grant. She obviously has put in a lot of work as well, and her energy is contagious, and as you know, her data has just continued to trend up year after year, and she had another big jump in her in Harrison's building data with the collective work that she's leading with her team. And they also have made so much progress that nationally, Solution Tree has reached out to them and asked them to be to apply to be a model PLC nationwide school. So they have their application in,
Yes.
and they're reviewing the application, but even to be asked and to be recognized
Thank you.
is there's not very many model PLC schools, as Superintendent Holtzman will probably tell you. So I
Well,
want
thank
her to be recognized for
Yeah.
that as well. So
Can I have you repeat what you say to your staff again? That's that click one.
Oh,
Yeah, well, that stuck with me, but I can't remember it. So it obviously didn't stick good enough, but I want to hear it again.
yes. So we're doing one next step to be greater than we were before. Because that's always my thing at Harrison. We're already doing great things. This 100-day plan is not because we stink. This is all about just being greater than we were before. So that's our motto at Harrison.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone, we have moved to the end of our meeting. The only announcement I have is that our agenda setting session is next week, Monday, and then our next PPC meeting is the first Monday in February, and I don't know that date right now. Anyone know what it is? 4:30, same time, same place.
February 2nd.
February 2nd, exciting. I guess so. And historically, we have had issues with February meetings, but this year is our year to not have. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.